What up, WWE Champions Universe? Welcome to Champions Chat, the fastest growing podcast dedicated to the WWE Champions mobile app. I'm Bodacious, IronSheik84, and with me, on occasion, is bombastic Lee Brown.
Wow. Occasionally bombastic or occasionally with you?
Occasionally with me.
Oh, there we
You're
go.
always bombastic.
So what was the team connected to that? You said it was the new Midnight Rockers?
The New Midnight Express, if you
Oh, no,
remember.
no. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
it was Bart Gunn and Bob Holly, managed by Jim Cornette.
Oh, that's right. I forgot I forgot that team existed. Like,
Oh,
wow. Good
yeah.
shout out.
Oh yeah, of course. And I got to tell you, for those of you who haven't done it before, pause this real quick. Go listen to the original Midnight Express, entrance theme. It is a banger.
Nice. I have not. I grew up with the Midnight Rockers, which of course
Yeah,
became the Rockers, but
yeah,
I never actually watched the Midnight Express. I was watching a different company when they were in whichever one it seemed like.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Actually, there's a tag team in another company. That may be a revival of some sort that actually use a remix of that theme. So yeah,
nice, nice. Yeah, I mean, maybe in another company, but they were around for a little while at least in this one, right?
yeah.
Well, so on our show notes for today, the podcast, first of all, welcome to our guest, Iron Sheik 84, repeating guest. Make sure, and we'll say it later, but follow Iron Sheik on Twitch, on Discord servers, and on YouTube. Make sure you like all his videos. So we're going to talk about what's going on in the game, and specifically, Sheik, for our opening little segment, what are you liking about Champs right now, and what are you struggling with in Champs right now? And Godfather, good to see you tonight, by the way.
Yeah.
So
What's up?
I can't get the
Yeah.
chat box. There it is. Now the chat box is
Yeah.
live.
Yeah. I see it. Yeah. So what am I liking about Champions this month? I got the Miz, and I'm super happy
Yeah.
about that. Yeah. Unfortunately, I was. You know how sometimes you get to that point where you're like, oh, even if I burn all my resources, I can't get it.
Right.
I had the token, but I was 110 away. So even if I
Oh,
cashed in the 100, I couldn't get him last weekend, and I was just like, but it doesn't matter. I got him on Monday, and absolutely love using him so far.
yeah.
Um,
Me too.
yeah,
I heard somebody say he's like a better CM Punk in the game, and I was
mhm,
like, ooh, that's one to remember whenever we talk about the Miz and CM Punk. Like the Miz is a better CM Punk. Wow, that's a hot take. But yeah, I mean, on Feud this last weekend, I was hitting an average of 145 million per turn. Like,
yeah. So
it's crazy.
Yeah, so my buddy Lurchy119 that you see at the top of a lot of these milestones, he showed me like a pre and post setup for him, and I was like,
Yeah.
whoa. So yeah, I'm excited.
Pre moment and post
Yeah,
moment.
yeah. Well, no, he had the moment, but sorry,
Oh,
pre 99 MP, post 99
oh
MP.
yeah. Yeah, he's still. I mean, when we power rated him, we always try to power rate without I mean, taking account for the 99 MP being gone, and he'll still. I mean, the lowest we saw him hitting was 76 million, but average was
Yeah,
90 ish. So
yeah,
crazy. But anyway, so
yeah,
that's one thing. You got the Miz. Did you get the
yeah.
moment?
So I have not gotten the moment only because I'm gonna wait until the end of the MLC because just in case something comes up, I don't want it to be a situation where I was like, I should have waited.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, I don't know. For me, I think the moment with Miz, that's the get this time around. We'll talk about some other things later with the
Yeah,
other characters this month. But anyway, keep going.
yeah. So I mean, I mean, I know everybody's touched on this already, but the midweek events lasting the entire month, I think is a fantastic choice.
Yeah.
That's one that I welcome them to keep doing going forward.
Nice. I agree. That the midweek prize wall thing is, I mean, the community's complained about the prize walls a lot, and I may or may not have quite a bit, and even in certain calls with Scopely that was like, yeah, there's gotta be something better than this, and yeah, now I mean, I think most players will be able to get at least the Miz moment, possibly. I mean, I think some are going to even have questions like, do I do the, I was about to say Judgment Day, the Imperium moment, or do I do the Miz moment, or do I get shot? I mean, just like the ability to look at that and say, oh, I have to make hard choices because there's so much I could get, or like I can get one of so many things, versus there's literally been prize balls where it's like, well, guess I'm taking moment tokens again. Yay.
Yeah. Yeah, so actually, I was gonna. So I know you kind of jumped ahead on me
Oh,
on,
sorry.
what I didn't. What I was gonna say. I don't like. Sometimes I hate it when they have these kind of prize walls because and again, I don't want to sound like hypocritical at any point whenever we talk about this stuff,
Sure.
but you'll have the prize walls where you're like, okay, I beat every CSS, I did this, I did that. Well, the only choices I have are the 12 moments that I've gotten 787,000 times maxing the MLC, or I
Right.
can get 5,000 strap parts. Yay!
Yay.
And then there's these ones where you're like, oh my God, oh, there's like, like I can get this, but I can get that, but I can get this, or I can get that. And there's like that struggle of like, there's so many good options on there. What do I get?
Right.
And the thing is, like, I wish that they gelled a little bit more, and that you don't have like, and don't get me wrong, keep great prize walls.
Right.
This is a wonderful problem to have, but
Agreed.
like I said, I kind of wish that they didn't have it to where like one prize wall's like this and another one's like this. Like, I kind
Yeah.
of wish there was a little bit of middle ground to where like, okay, you did all the CSS stuff and like, and maybe you bought a $20 pack here or there, again, you're not stuck with stuff that's like completely useless to you.
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
Well,
Some other stuff. Sorry, another thing to mention. Ugh, this midweek showdown and another Rex Regum requirement. Oh my
yeah.
God. I yeah, I'm kind of tired. I'm kind of tired of Rex Regum being required for every single event, and I don't have them.
Right.
And here's the thing: I don't want to talk about how I understand when new things come out. There is, for lack of a better term, a bit of a trial period,
Yeah.
and it's sometimes it's like sometimes when Scopely releases something, they have the difficulty level set all the way to max, and then when they're kind of like, hey, you know what, maybe we should bring it down like a couple notches. So I'm hoping that in the incoming months, it's not it's not like, oh hey, every single event is going to require Trish, and then next month's 5K chase is going to be every
Right.
single you know what I mean. So yeah, that pretty much.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. And Godfather put in there Rex and Indy. Yeah, Indy's been required a lot, which I got lucky.
Yeah.
Real super lucky pull for her. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean I think the idea of, hey, these characters that you just had access to this last month, whether you got them or not, are now going to be used for at least their month and the month after. I like the idea of like encouraging that, but it does feel really bad then when you don't get one, especially like Rex Regum. So I had somebody message me a couple days ago and they were like, hey, I did 2 mega pulls for Trish and I'm gutted I didn't get her. And I was like, well,
Yeah.
S plus tier doesn't mean anything else theoretically other than rarity.
Mhm.
By that definition, they're expecting that she's going to cost more than 2 megapulls, but it was like, I get it, because then they were like, well, they're going to require her next month and it's going to be this, and I'm like, yeah, I get that. On the flip side, prior to me kind of stepping up what I do in this and investing in our content differently and stuff, the reality was most events I didn't have, like, it'd be whoever, whatever the rare character was a year ago, 2 years ago, I rarely ever had them. So it's not really a change for me, but it was also at least, okay, well, this event, that character that I don't have is required, and the next event, that character I don't have is required. Now it's like, ugh, one more on Triple H again. Okay, all
Yeah.
right. It'll be interesting to see what happens next month and the months after. Like, do they require Rex Regum again? And then we're like, man, I wish they'd require Rex Regum. I finally got him.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean, and here's the thing with, you want people to get the, what is it, the victories of their spoil, the spoils
Yeah.
award. Sorry, that's what I was trying to go with.
Yeah.
Like, with stuff like this, again, that's why I kind of say, like, I don't want to sound hypocritical by saying, like, oh, they need to do this, but then in the next breath say, no, they need to do that. I mean, like, I get it. I 100% get it. You want people to, feel a sense of, accomplishment or whatever it is by getting Rex Regum.
Right.
But then on the other side, I'm like, every single event this month,
Right.
including look, including like the double requirement for the Flash feud for Rex Regum and Charlotte, which I did have Charlotte. Yeah, that I was like, oh, like, I was not a fan of that.
Right. Agreed. I think they did balance it out well, and I don't want to reopen wounds from the Rock final boss debacle, but once the majority of the community did have him, they seem to require him for stuff too, which is great. So next month, I'm assuming Miz will be required for a number of things, and we'll all go, yay! But I also assume Trish is going to be, and unless I get a super lucky pull, I don't have a path forward to her. I mean, so I'm gearing up for a number of events where I go, oh gosh, it's Trish again. But that being said, it'll be interesting, because if next month there's not quite as much a female focus, do they then code in Trish when there's mostly male events? We'll have to see. Maybe it's a clue that there's going to be more female events next month again. Who knows?
Yeah.
No.
And I mean, like, and I know I always say this, or it may not come across. Look, there's never going to be a perfect way for events to be, but it's just there. Like, here's the thing. Like, it's just there are going to be some things that are going to be done right, some that aren't, and that's just something that you're going to have to deal with in the game.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, again, I maybe the way I invest in games, like I attach myself to, okay, I'm playing this game, not like all these games, but like Destiny was my game for a long time, and it was the same thing. Like, oh man, they nerfed Galahorn. Oh, they did this. Oh, that, and you kind of rose and fall with the whims of, oh, okay, now they did this, but now they overcorrected that, and to me it kind of felt similar in some ways, but that's, I don't know. It's interesting, if nothing else. So, more positives, or you have some pain points to speak into.
I trying to think. I like the fact that they're giving out more and more rewards nowadays. I like that too. It's definitely a breath of fresh air to be able to, sometimes they don't come out with a surplus of like coins from where I started in the month, even though I invested a lot in there. So yeah, right. I mean, look, again, there are things in this game that I would like changed, absolutely, but for now I'm going to still keep playing unless they unless they give me a reason not to.
Well, that's good. I mean, I think one of my oof points, which as we're recording this, Professor's already streamed, and I think the blog is already live. I did the video that's going to go live in 17 minutes as of this recording. I recorded prior to Taekwondo, which is the blog, the WCW blog read. But it starts out with, hey, the last boss battle was not the way it should have been. We screwed up. It was not good. And we're going to make it right. And it was like, wow, I'm seeing more of that from Scopely. And I think when that is the posture, it's like, well, gosh, it sucks that Boss Battle was tanked for so many people for so long last time. But if they legitimately are like, okay, this wasn't on you guys, this was our mistakes, whether we caused it, whether the servers caused it, doesn't matter. We're taking ownership for it. And by the way, we're sending out, and again, I am curious because I was at Taekwondo while Professor read the blog. In my understanding of reading that early draft, they're giving a ultimate errorless strap. So like if it's genderless, errorless, it's a Rainmaker. They're giving an ultimate Rainmaker. Like, yeah. Oh my goodness, if that's the case. And if it is male or female, you still have an all era strap for either your male or your female roster. Like, woo, that's going to be, that's a pretty decent, and that was just one of many things on there. But, the fact that Boss Battle was tanked was, how many boss battles have we done? And it's like, all right, what are we going to run into this time?
Yeah, again, like, it's like one of those things, like, I don't want to seem negative, but just sometimes I'm like, and I know Merrick's has touched on this quite a bit.
Yeah.
I don't understand how an event that they've done so many times just breaks all of a sudden. And I don't want to talk about like just like, and I don't want to talk about like just Faction Boss, but I'm talking like the other ones too. I don't get it. I really don't, and I like, and I'll go on record, as saying this, just sometimes I'm like, I know I said this, with some of the other things that come, that have happened, and, some of the, like the major mistakes I see, I'm just like, what, if I was in charge, I would fire the entire QA team and start from scratch. And I'll admit that, like, I'll be like, I can't believe that a game that's been out for 7 years, and we have things that, should be just, like copy and paste of another thing, and then they're just fundamentally broken. And I'm like, how do they not test this out? Like,
right.
And Lee, I don't know if I listen to all the Champions Chat podcasts, and if you've already talked about this before and I forgot about it, forgive me on that. I wish that they would pick a day a month, and if it's like half a day or if it's 1 day or something, or heck, even like 2 or 3 hours, right? I would welcome them shutting the game down completely and just doing like, hey, we're going to do like a major overhaul of like servers or code or whatever it is. And they're like, and they say like, okay, like every, the last Tuesday of every month from 12, PST to 4 PST or whatever.
Right.
Game will be down. We'll we'll do updates, we'll do tests, and then the game will be online. Kind of like for like when they do the trials, how your game is temporarily like down for what, like I'm not up that late in the morning, but
right.
5 minutes or hour, whatever it is. I would welcome that big time.
Gotcha. And it's not unheard of. I mean, I even just think of years ago now, I guess, because it was the pandemic era. I've never been a Fortnite guy. I'd never played Fortnite, but my buddy who was my workout partner at the time, his son, that was his life. And when they did the event where like the cataclysm happened and then the servers were just gone, and like it was intentional, and it just said coming back soon or whatever, that was a couple weeks, if I remember correctly. Maybe it was only a
Mhm.
week or whatever, but either way, like they used that time to get the next big update ready to go.
Mhm.
And even though like it was a super calculated risk to shut down the servers for all that time, it actually built interest from the player base because they're like, what's happening? We got to get. And then when the new Dawn or whatever it was called came back, their player base like jumped in it. Yeah,
Yeah.
Zandel says Destiny did that also. That's right. Yeah. So I mean, I agree. I wouldn't mind, especially you're like you mentioned Tuesday. So if they launch the MLC Tuesday, you have everything in the world to do that day. And then by
Mhm.
like the third Tuesday of every month, you're like, oh, I beat everything yesterday. So,
Yeah.
I'm not
Or
missing anything that day.
yeah. Well, I mean, okay. Let's just take this MLC for example, right? I think that, or it's like I know I said like last Tuesday of the month, but how about like when an MLC ends and the next one starts? How about at that point? Because people are waiting for the new MLC to start anyway.
Yeah, that's
So
true. That
yeah,
Monday where
it's like
there's just nothing.
yeah, exactly. Instead of running like that blitz where you have to have every single character of the month to be able to do anything,
Right?
you know, they're
Pisses
like, hey,
people
we're
off
gonna do.
anyway.
Yeah, it's like we're gonna, yeah, it's like we'll do that because it seems like every single time the MLC, like a new MLC launches, there's just five or six things that are broken fundamentally.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, like, yeah, I would welcome that, like I said, just that short period of time to make sure that we have a working event come out. Because
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, like I unfortunately wasn't able to see Bro's blog stream. Unfortunately, like I think that's amazing having like a Rainmaker strap. That's an ultimate belt that I know everybody's been asking for. I
Right.
am so excited about that.
Well, and
But
subject to change because I was on a very early version of the blog when I did my video for
yeah,
it. So,
yeah.
but
Uh,
just
but but here's the thing: like instead of getting rewards after the fact as a we're sorry,
hmm,
I would rather have a working event come out that I can play and earn my rewards. Like, and and I, and like I said again, I don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth.
right.
I want that Rainmaker strap. Do not take it away. I will fly
Right.
to Spain and find where Furbo is if he takes that away from me. But
Uh,
yeah, like it's just like I would have rather had a working faction boss
right.
instead of having to do the whole like, hey everybody, don't hit, oh great, oh this lobby didn't work. Okay, which one of you jerks hit start before 20 seconds was up?
Right. I mean, that was kind of a fun, like, I mean, there's a little bit of a chaos agent in me in times where I'm like, okay, is this lobby gonna work? And then somebody,
Yeah,
launches it with, no, I just, okay, now, and then there'd be ones who just sat there for like, okay, the lobby has to sit for 2 minutes before we go. And then you're like,
yeah.
I literally am just sitting here. And then, yeah, it launches. So the one, speaking of the blog from this week, but this is going to be relevant for what people experience coming
Mm-hmm.
into this weekend, so it's worth talking about. And other content creators have already called it out. 6-star gold required for level 23 with females.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be that'll be the talking point from this boss. I've got 3 of 4 classes, but I
Same
also
here.
have a 10 million roster almost. So
Yeah.
the 4 million roster person is going, what? Like,
Yeah.
but they're also making gold characters infinitely more available than they were. Like,
Mm-hmm.
to have as many gold characters, even just from the loot that is now 2 months in a row, and I've been told it's likely to be there again next month. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like that, think about 6 silver meta. We were struggling to get one 6 silver character,
Mm-hmm.
but on the flip side of that, now it's like if your faction's gonna max, you have to you have to have prayed you took Shotzi to 6-star gold, because
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, who's your chaotic female?
Yeah. Well, I have enough resources to make two strikers in the chaotic
Uh-huh.
6-star gold, and I'm like, ugh, do I really want to like bring up Alexa Bliss? Who I have tons of shards for. So I, I I'm
Oh,
I'm
I might
I'm
have to do
debating.
that.
I'm debating what I'm gonna do.
Right.
But to that, again, I don't want to. The only thing that I would say, again, we're talking about things is like on the Rock blog, they said like, hey, we're not gonna have 6-star requirements just yet, and
Right.
then like less than 6 weeks later, is when they're like, oh, you gotta have a 6-star gold for this men's faction boss. I just
Right.
like, okay, again, me personally, like if Iron Sheik was in charge of Scopely, I would have waited at least till month 3. So like,
Yeah.
not this not the Rock MLC, not this MLC. I would
The
have started
next
having
one.
the requirement for the next one, and
Yeah.
then also when you're gonna have a feud week to begin with, and you're gonna be bringing people up anyway, I would have announced it a week ahead of time. Personally,
Sure.
because here's the thing, like I know you said you only get to see the blogs a couple hours ahead of time,
I do. Yeah.
but one of the things that like I bring up from time to time is like the blogs aren't created like 2 seconds before you see them, right? They're
Right.
worked on for several days and things in advance. I just like I think it would be cool for them to say, hey, look, just an FYI, like Talent Up is this week, and here's the required CSS people for feud. But hey, just as a heads up, starting next faction boss, we're gonna have people. We're gonna have a 6-star gold requirement. So
Right.
as you're doing the Talent Up this week, kind of
Probably consider that.
it's like take a look at your roster, kind of see like,
Right.
oh hey, who do maybe you might want to take somebody else up, like because like with me, like once I max, I kind of like, okay, I'm done for the week,
Right.
until the next one. And then for people who don't have as many resources as others, you know like it can start a situation of like, oh man, you know what, if I had known that they were going to have faction boss be 6-star gold, then maybe I would have taken blah 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 up instead of blah blah blah, or
Right.
like like I would have been fine keeping this person 6-star bronze for the feud, but no, I took him up, and now I don't have any tokens left, and now I'm not going to be able to do anything for faction boss.
Right. Well, and that's something. Even if the blog itself doesn't call it out, that you gave me a great like, hey, for when we're doing the WCWs, we try not to just do a blog read. Not that that's a
Mhm.
bad thing, but to
Yeah.
like give some interpretive framework to it.
Mhm.
And if the format continues similar to how it has, then
Mhm.
the six, or not the 6-star, the S plus character is going to be the boss in week 3, give or
Mhm.
take. So that would mean, okay, if the S plus tier character is a male, plan for a male boss battle, and always
Mhm.
subject to change. But if it's a female,
Mhm.
plan for a female. But I think, one of the big takeaways for us now is like, hey, you need to have in your talent up plans, you need to have a male in each class and a female in each class for boss battle. And even like,
Mhm.
I know Zandel said don't do it, don't take
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
is it, Striker Bliss up.
Strike
But
Bliss. Yeah.
my other choice that I've legitimately been building up is Hall of Fame Lita, and she is
Mhm.
not good for anything anymore, but like
Mhm.
resource wise, she was my cheapest to get ready for 6-star gold. Although I'm missing, I really have overestimated how many of those 6-star or the needed Hall of Fame old tokens
Mhm.
would be in the
Mhm.
prize walls. Because no, but yeah, there's just not really like who of chaotic females. It must be somebody I don't have. It's Jade's focused. I don't have her, but there's got to be
Yeah.
somebody. But
Yeah.
you got to take a hit somewhere. It seems like.
Yeah. I literally have everybody. So the reason why I'm looking down is because I brought
You're
it up
fine.
real quick. Yeah. So Bodacious Becky is the only chaotic I don't have. And actually, what's funny is I forget which loot it was that I got it from, but the reason why like I was thinking Bliss is because I made her 6-star silver, the last female boss, because I was like, well, who do I want to take out? I'm like, oh, I have a fuse. I'm going to use that. All right,
Right.
yay, you know. But like looking at it legitimately right now, um, so by the way, plug. Make sure to watch the Who Should You Take 6-Star Gold series to see who you should take 6-star gold.
Thank
Only
you.
on YouTube.com/Champions Chat.
We actually have the @ symbol now for ours. So
Oh,
@
oh, yeah.
Champions Chat podcast. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Sweet.
YouTube.com at Champions Chat Podcast. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, so like taking a look at Chaotic right now, if I were gonna go with like, okay, these are the people that I would seriously take up. Um, I mean, JD Rhea, and I'm not talking like fantastic. It's just people that like I wouldn't
Right.
feel like, oh my god, I just threw all my
What a waste,
resources
but at
in
least I'd
trash.
finish. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There's JD. Yeah, like I said, JD Rhea. I know Chelsea Green doesn't hit as hard, but I mean, she's still good.
Yeah, I don't have
Um,
her, which is why she's not on my list. But I've been asked multiple times to make a "Should You Take" video for her. So maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow.
yeah,
We'll see.
yeah. There's Shotzi, of course, who I think is an excellent choice.
Yep.
And then there's Nikki Cross, just for the fact that she can set up a stun loop with her.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking
Uh,
about Nikki Cross either, but that would be worthwhile. Yeah,
yeah, I love me my stun loop characters.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too.
There's Io Sky,
I don't have her.
and then there's Bodacious Becky, and that's pretty much
I
it.
don't know
That like, yeah, I'm sure Sorzoro is going to be like, oh hey, with this $1,000 plate, you
Right?
know, yeah, it's like
Big
I made,
damage.
I made Nia Jax hit 400 million.
I mean, he did take up the challenge when we called out Road Dogg as garbage,
Yeah.
and then he made a video. It was like Champions Chat. I made him good, and
Yeah,
I mean, it was a stretch to say good, even with the Zorro build. That's when you know a character is lost cause.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like shots. So here's my like takeaway from all those real quick. Shotzi, 100% worthwhile. However, acro females, Zombie Liv, or I'm sorry, Zombie Becky, and non JD Rhea, the Legends era, like those two are going up for me, even if I have to lose points on a boss battle, because those two are far more important. But and then Trickster females, like, oh my goodness, just the number of Trickster females that are in the game that are like, this is worth considering is just astonishing. And so I would have to take Rhea up. I would have to pass by Liv. I'd have to pass by. I mean, you just go down the list. Zombie Bianca
Yeah.
down to whoever. And so it is one of those like, ooh. I don't know. Chaotic is a rough class for me for females. So maybe next month's free character Scopely could be a female that's chaotic, that's really good. Not Maurice level. Just like more
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's good. And I think from the other side of it too is just as we look at this month. I was talking to somebody on Discord yesterday or today, and I just said, like, think back to any given month in the game 2 years ago. Do you even still use one of those characters? And if the answer is it was the month Powerhouse KO came out, yes, obviously that would be it. But for the most part, characters that are 2 years old, we're not using them very much anymore. Now, the 1-year-old characters, they tend to have scaled actually a lot better into 6-star gold than I think a lot of people expected. But I honestly think we'll be using Miz. Like, it'll be, well, Miz is always relevant, KO's always relevant, Regal's always relevant.
Yeah.
Like, that's always going to be the case because of the way they're designed, unless they nerf them significantly somehow. But let's not do that. But, like, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. But one that this month I don't think people are going to be walking away going like, this is the greatest ever, is Bret Hart. Sheik, how do you feel about still not having a top tier Bret Hart in the game?
So this may come as a shock to some people.
Uh-oh.
Iron Sheik is not my favorite wrestler of all time.
Right.
It is Bret Hart.
Yep, I knew that.
Yeah. Well, I know you knew. I know a lot. There may be others like, oh, what's your name, Iron Sheik?
Right.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Like, I love Bret. I think that so the technician style of wrestling is always my favorite.
Yeah.
And the thing with Bret is, and I want to paraphrase Bruce Pritchard here on, from his podcast. Bret was an artist and the ring was his canvas.
Oh, that's good.
And, and I know there are people out there who are going to say like, oh, well, Bret wasn't good on a promo and so was better. Or, I know there's always going to be like the HBK versus Bret Hart, thing, but I think like as far as I'm talking like as pure wrestling goes, there are a very small number of people who I would say are on par or potentially better at being a wrestler
Right.
than Bret Hart is.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I agree. Like, there's a reason why when he said, "I'm the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be," that very few people were like, bet, right? It was like, okay, I got to find another way to, come at this or whatever.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there was a hot minute where Hall of Fame Bret Hart was one of the top characters. I don't know if you remember this or not, but when they
Mm-hmm.
very first put Scopely's tier ranking into the
Mm-hmm.
game, and oh, hey, look at that! I confettied.
Yeah.
Whee!
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're on your iPad. I forgot about that. Yeah.
No, I'm not on. But I'm on a laptop. But even still, like,
Oh.
yeah, there's command. Like, if you do this, it will eventually. There you go. You just gotta
Oh.
learn the secret codes, the hand
Oh.
language.
God.
But anyway, so when they very first put the tier lists in there, and they said, "Hey, we're gonna fix this. This isn't, this isn't the way it's gonna be." But the only S plus tier in the game for a hot minute was Hall of Fame Bret. Like, that was the
Yeah.
one that they had on there. So he was good for a bit. But other than that, like, even when the new Tech Bret came out, it was like he's okay, And it kind of seems like every time there's a new Bret Hart in the game, it's like at least he's the best Bret we've got now.
Yeah.
It's where they go with it. Have you been watching the rise and fall? I know we're going to talk WWE in just a couple minutes, but have you been watching? Oh no, it's the Vice's Who Killed WCW. Have you watched any of that series?
So I've seen bits and pieces of it. I just haven't had time to actually like sit down and watch the whole thing. Between work and the little one, it's just it's been a bit chaotic around the household.
No, you're good. I've been catching them on YouTube, and sometimes other people upload them for some reason. Usually Vice does, but either way. So Bret is one of the featured people in there, and they go back into the Goldberg incident and let those two, like not in the same room, have it out and all that. But one of the things he said in there is, man, for me to come in right off, and he didn't call it the Montreal screw job, whatever, but
Yeah.
right off this hot angle, this hot thing that happened, and for them to literally throw me into this confusing mess, like, it just shows how terrible they were. And I was like, I've never been the biggest Bret Hart fan, I'll admit, but he's absolutely right. Like,
Yeah.
they bungled. I mean, he was the hottest. They could have done the story. It's like when Vince bought the WCW itself, and they bungled the invasion. That was WCW's version of that. And similarly, it's like, man, I mean, whether you like him or not, Bret Hart is one of those, like, I don't like the term Mount Rushmore anymore, because there's way more than four. You know what I mean? But like, he is, if you do the tiers, he's S plus tier, no matter whose ranking you go off of in real life. And it's like AJ Styles in the game. We just still don't have an AJ Styles that's worth using in the game. And Striker Bret he's okay. He's very, very okay.
By the way, I did face a very annoying Tech AJ a long time ago.
Yeah.
What is it? It's the Bret plate, the one where you make botches and it makes your
the Hitman's armor. Yeah.
Yeah, the Hitman's armor. Yeah, I faced the guy or gal. Sorry, I want to make sure I don't want to assume anything. But yeah,
Right.
I faced somebody who had one, and every freaking turn when he put out those botch gems, he made my MP go down, and I got so salty about that because a lot of times I don't pay attention. I'm just like, I'll face whoever. Like, I don't care, But yeah, like I was like, this is frustrating. So then finally, I was just like, okay, this is what I'm doing. I'm gonna fill up my partner's MP, and then as soon as I get a chance, like, I am gonna take him out turn one. And I did, and it was so satisfying.
Nice. I ran into an Ultimate Warrior, Always Believe, and I was like, oh, he's not meta relevant anymore, which I haven't done the test yet, but still. And same thing, he had the X-Break version of that, and he did his move, and I was like, ha, see, you barely hit me. And then I was like, wait, why isn't my move load? Oh crap! And then I realized. Then the light went off
Yeah.
and went, oh, and then
No, you got the,
you either rage quit or you.
yeah. He's like, oh,
So,
he's like, he got the beer plate. Oh,
yep. And I sat there, and I did beat him, but literally, like he was doing this much damage to me, but all I
yeah,
had was gems. All I could do
yeah.
was gems. That was it.
Just go at him
Oh,
with the pillow fists.
that's right. Oh gosh. So on the other side of some of the good things, so we'll double check with the actual officially released blog, and of course in game is always going to be the best. But they're giving away some strap, and the way it reads, it feels like it's a non-era based strap, even if there's a gender requirement on it. They just gave away Finn Balor, the Showboat version's gear. And then today in game, if you haven't seen yet, they gave away Sika plus his gear. Which, if you did watch my how to should you take series on Sika for gold, we couldn't have planned that. Like literally an hour before his passing was announced, our video came out. But one of the things I said in there was I missed his gear because it was available to everybody. I'm going to cause the confetti again. It was available to everybody, but like there was a day. If you remember, there was a daily requirement you had to do, and one
Oh,
of
yeah.
the days was you have to level him up. And I had already maxed him out as far as I could take him. I couldn't do it, so I never got the gear. So I got Balor's gear, I got Sika's gear, and we got something coming for ahead of boss battle. So likely tomorrow. What do you think about like those kind of generous drops that have been?
hmm
I mean, they've done them before, but seems like a little
hmm
more frequently.
Well, I mean, obviously, I mean, by the way, on the off chance that Roman Reigns is watching this, condolences
I
to
doubt it.
condolences to you and your family and your friends.
Right.
And if you ever want to be on my channel, you're more than welcome to join.
That's right.
Yeah. I don't want to make light of a bad situation, of course, but
No,
uh,
no.
but I mean, Sika definitely um, was a very influential person in the world of wrestling, not just.
Oh no, we're having the rusty problem here. So if you're listening, we lost Sheik for a second here. Let me check the collab cam and add him back on. All right. I don't know what happened, but you dropped off. So you said he was
Okay.
influential, not just, and then you were
Oh,
gone.
sorry. Yeah, I actually saw you go away on mine too, and I was like, oh,
Oh, well,
yeah. I don't. Yeah, on my end, I don't know what
internet.
happened. No, I was gonna say, Sika was a very influential person in the world of wrestling, not just as a wrestler, but as a trainer as well.
Yeah.
And for him to be gone, is definitely it's a huge loss to the world of wrestling.
Yeah.
I think that it's awesome. I think it's awesome that Scopely, when things like this happen, sadly, that Scopely does honor him by allowing people to, get said character.
Right.
Um, and in turn, like, I'm super stoked with the Pride Week. I did not have Balor's gear actually, so
Me
that was
either.
something new for me. Yeah, I was really happy about that. The let me just sorry if you don't mind, I'm going to bring it up real quick just so I can
Sure.
read through it because I don't remember everything. So obviously day one was Piper Niven,
Right.
who, and I know like the joke of everybody was like, for those of you who pick Piper over the over the medallion, how do you feel now? Or the plate, how do you
Yep.
feel now? Oh yeah, I know we keep going back to what do I like about this month? What do I don't like about this
No,
month?
you're fine. Keep going.
I don't know what it is like. Um, how is it that everybody got 5 shards of Striker KO every single month, and it seems like I get 100 and something shards of Piper Niven, who I already have, by the way.
Right.
You know,
Everybody should at
you
this
know,
point.
yeah. If you don't, like, you're either not playing the game daily
Right.
or
Well, they just gave her away free, but
yeah,
yes, yeah,
yeah.
right.
But you know what I mean. Actually, I feel bad. There's somebody who didn't go to. There's somebody on Reddit that I talked to, and I made this big post about like, hey, make sure you check every single day, and then literally like maybe 45 minutes after the cutoff, they're like, oh, hey, like I don't, I'm having trouble beating, I'm a new player and I'm having trouble beating this node. What can I do? And I was like, well, why aren't you going to the portal? I was like, you missed out on a 5SB character, like in a
Right.
decent one. I was like, but then, I kind of like, I did like that. Okay, go to the portal, go to
Right.
www.champions.com/special offers, look under rewards. So
Right.
like, for newer players, or those who don't have it, it's like it's fantastic. But
Absolutely.
yeah. But reading through it, I don't remember like what the order is, but just going from the top. So like everybody got the Finn with the Valor, the Piper Niven. Today was Acrobat, so they gave away the tokens.
Right.
And then we still have Shayna Baszler, Tech Baszler, the Queen of Spades,
Right.
and then the Thousand Shards of Sonya Deville, and then finally the Pat Patterson grab bag.
Well, and I mean, I don't know if having, I don't know if I'm supposed to mention this, but somebody mentioned on there, if you look, it does say Surprise Day 6 as well. So,
Yeah.
were you the one who said that?
No, somebody else pointed it out to me
Oh,
because
okay.
I think I was in a meeting or something whenever that they put out the blog, and I think somebody pointed it out to me, and then I looked at it after the fact, that I because I didn't get a chance to look at it like as soon as
Right.
it had come out.
Yeah. I mean, it's super generous. And for those who, you got your Finn Balor showboat. I mean, that was a character legitimately. I just got him a few months ago, and
Mhm.
I was one of those, why can I not get him? I never got the gear, but it's plus 6 MP to every color.
Mhm.
And spoilers for a video I'm going to work on tomorrow, but other content creators have already done it. Uh, Triple purple with the gear at 6-star gold is very, very strong.
Mhm.
So, I mean, realistically, like, they gave you what is the makings of the top tier showboat. Because a lot of times you get one piece but not the rest.
Mhm.
Like, oh, I have this but I don't have that. Like, those are the two biggest things you need to get him.
Mhm.
I mean, I would rather have gear that's plus, 4, plus 5, plus 6 MP over
Mhm.
almost anything, because then you can always treat them like they're plus 99 MP, you know?
Yeah. No, and I definitely agree with you because depending on feud requirements or whatever, like that's one precious MP trainer that I don't have to use
Right.
if I'm, if they become a requirement.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it seems like there's maybe some more surprises to come. I mean, I know the
Mhm.
one, surprise got ruined very, very like day one of
Yeah.
the, so we know we're
Oh.
getting Sammy next week as a,
Oh, really?
I
Oh, I
mean,
had no idea. I was about to ask you what the mystery was.
well, the mystery is I don't actually have a acrobat male that I'm super pumped to take 6 gold. So
Yeah.
I'm going, can I afford? What can I do
Yeah.
to try and get Sammy with this? But I mean, I think it's been a generous month in some ways. I mean, again, if
Mhm.
you get Miz, you get the moment. Legitimately, I think he's going to hold up for the next 2 or 3 metas with no
Mhm.
problems ever. But also, we've got these little surprises. We've got these little fun things. We've got,
Mhm.
just it seems like. Well, thank goodness we didn't have a catastrophic like final boss thing like last month.
Mhm.
But this month has been one. It's like, you know what? I think I'm really starting to enjoy the format of the shard chase and the kind of knowing the characters in advance. Now, I really like, had it not been spoiled, I really like the combination of we know the characters in advance, but then there's surprises like Sammy would have been. But yeah, you take what you get, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they, again, I know going back to my QA comment,
Yeah,
I just hopefully next time if they do something like this, they actually have it be a real surprise,
right.
and just because like it's just I feel for y'all, and I legitimately mean that,
Yeah.
because the recent thing with the Universal Pass that came out,
Yeah.
and Rusty not knowing about it, not knowing that it went live. That's just to clarify.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, I know I talk about this a lot, but sometimes it's like it's kind of a theme because I'll be like, oh, I wish they did this, I wish they did that, but like communication, just like communication would be could I know, like, anybody can say like, oh, communication can always be better, but I mean,
Right.
like, in this instance, like, that certainly could have been a way better communication to everybody.
Right. Well, and in fairness to what we know and get to know and all that, I mean, we
Yeah,
saw the ultimate pass a couple hours further in advance than we probably would have, but there was
yeah,
also like oh, actually we're not gonna, there's a delay, we're not gonna do that yet, and then it was like, okay, it's live, and it was like, oh crap. So I think Rusty, was caught in the minute of like, wait, wasn't that supposed to be delayed? Are we supposed to? Oh gosh, what do we do? I mean,
yeah,
from what I can share on the behind the scenes, that's kind of where it is.
yeah,
And we'll see. I paid for, and I'm trying out my first month with it to
yeah.
see where we're at. I'm at 57,000 of the currency coins
Mhm.
in there, and I've done, I forget. So it would have been the one weekend mega that would have been on the stream.
Mhm.
I did two $20 ones, and then I've done like a couple single pulls. And
Yeah.
so then I'll have this weekend, I'll do a mega pull
Mhm.
tomorrow night. So theoretically, I'm getting close with that first time bonus to being
Yeah.
able to pick a character. And for me, like I call it the Pokemon Pass, because, or Rusty calls it the Partridge Pass. I like the Pokemon
Yeah.
Pass because I'm sitting there going like, I never actually thought I was going to be able to get Technomania Hogan and
Mhm.
or monstrous Tech Andre,
Mhm.
both of those, or Mutant Finn Balor. Like I literally just thought those are gone. I don't ever get to get them,
Mhm.
and as early as tomorrow, and this is silly because I won't use them, but as early as
Yeah.
tomorrow, I can be like, I got one of them. I
Yeah.
got Mutant Andre. Like
Yeah.
hooray,
Yeah.
So we'll
The
see.
only yeah, the only thing that I do wish, because I actually had one of my faction mates ask me my opinion on like, oh, which one should I choose?
Yeah,
Um, Again, I don't want to make it seem like I'm only picking out the negative stuff, but
sure.
uh, I really wish that they wouldn't have rewards. And I know that an argument can be made, but he was like, oh, it's like there's Hall of Fame Hogan, Mutant Finn, Mutant
Right.
Andre, Mutant
Yep.
Hogan,
Yep.
Hall of Fame Warrior, Hall of Fame Perfect, Hall of Fame Nash, right?
Right.
Why is Nash included? Because he's in the Showdown shop, like
Right.
and again, I know that some people can make the argument like, oh, it's like Showdown coins and things, but
Right.
I think that in situations like that, they shouldn't put a character that you can get for free
Right.
in a paid loot of sorts.
Sure. Well,
Yeah.
the way so just from what I've seen of it, and I don't
Hmm.
know coding very well, but the way the
Hmm.
coding seems to work, it
Hmm.
only shows you the characters that are one available in that pass, and two you don't have on your roster, because
Oh, okay.
I don't see Ultimate Warrior Hall of Fame because I've already got him, so he does not show up on mine at all.
Okay.
However, it does show me Hogan because I don't have
Hmm.
Hall of Fame Hogan. But like, it doesn't show me some of those. And I guess the third clarifier or qualifier is that they're available still to be used. So like for example, of the
Hmm.
way things cascade, I don't know if
Hmm.
they could have done it this way, but the Ultimate Pass came out right as Scopely found out that they had rights to use Macho Man again.
Hmm.
And so Hall of Fame Macho's not on there, but I would assume he would be. But then like the Motu characters are all on there, which that absolutely shocked me. I was super pumped about that.
Hmm.
But of course the Ghostbusters aren't. That would have
Yeah.
been like oh, I could go get Stay Puff. I could go, but they're not on there. So they have to have
Yeah.
the rights, and
Yeah.
but it's definitely, as far as I can tell, it's definitely based on the pool that's available, it just doesn't show you the ones that you already have. So apparently,
Oh,
ask
okay.
your faction mate if they already have Hall of Fame Kevin Nash. Then I'm wrong. But from when I look at my portal on there with it, that's the way I read it.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna give it a shot for a month, like because by the time my infamous study is gonna be done, and I have $65 of my gift card money to use,
Right.
uh, I mean it'll have been out for I think 2 or 3 weeks by that point, and then
Right.
I'll ask around and I'll give it a shot, and if I like it, cool, I'll keep it. But if I
Right.
don't, then no harm, no foul.
Right. Well, since I mean, you were in the chat,
Mhm.
that side of the chat, or wait, sorry, there it is.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
chat, when Russ and I were doing this last time, and we were just figuring it out as we went, but it
yeah.
seems like because I did the $30 US dollar one, that with the $10 pass you still get the polls,
Mhm.
and while again confirmed, and we did the Q&A on it and stuff, those don't count as your first coin that gives you credit,
Yeah.
like bonus points and all that. They don't count as that. But I'm trying to. I haven't been keeping track because all the travel I had to do that was unexpected.
Mhm.
But next month, I want to start keeping track of how many bonus pulls did I
Mhm.
actually get. Because for $10, like if there even is one Nation of Celebration loot that
Mhm.
was $6,
Mhm.
plus I now have seen confirmed that I got a pull in the weekly loot that resets, but you can use the same
Mhm.
coins. I got that across 2 separate weeks because I started with the one week and claimed it, and then it
Mhm.
reset, and so that right there's $4. That's $10, and that's only 3 loots. So I mean,
Yeah.
the value is there from that side of it, but is the value that, like, how long is it going to take me, because the characters that I really, the Mudas,
Mhm.
the powerhouse KOs that I really want in the
Mhm.
Pokemon Pass are 1,000,000 coins. How long is it really going to take me to get to 1,000,000 coins to get to them? That's the one I want to know.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure DJ will get there in like what, 6 weeks.
You're like, I recruited everybody, now what do I
Yeah.
do? Nice, nice.
Yeah. As a side note, I
Wow.
love DJ so much, and like I never say this, but like every once in a while, like like when I watch him do his pulls, and he goes through and he's like, "Oh, I don't have this and I don't have that," and I'm like thinking like, dude, like
Wow.
I never do megas, and how do I have him and her and him and you don't? Like,
Right?
it always gets a laugh out of me.
Yeah, yeah. My favorite is when he just gets overconfident. It's like, I'm gonna get the new character of this, and they're right here, and then it's like, oh,
Hey, I always
dang.
believe in DJ, so anytime that it comes up, I always put my channel points towards hoping that he gets a fuse or a new pull.
Yeah, I appreciate. Well, and speaking of that, now that we're using this our normal Twitch, I gotta have somebody teach me how to do channel points and blah blah anything.
Oh
But
yeah,
Zandal says in the comment section, I've gotten 3 or 4 claims so far from the Ultimate Champions Pass. So
yeah,
3 or 4 claims within 1 month. I mean, again, it's the Pokemon. You catch them all, man.
yeah.
That's good. Oh, the $10 pass. Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you were saying you got 3, like you pulled off the portal. So you did the $10 pass and you got 3 or 4 claims so far. I mean, that's on average, you've gotten your money out of it. Whether
Yeah,
or not you got something worthwhile in the pull that's a different story. But, you know,
yeah.
yeah. So I think, that's one of those arguments again, kind of like we talked about before, but now I can say it more definitively is if you are a spender, first caveat, and
Hmm.
secondly, you can reallocate $10 from somewhere in your spending.
Hmm.
I think that's worth it. I mean, I think you're gonna get enough pulls that you'll get way more than your money out of it. So we'll
Yeah.
see, we'll see. But well, any final thoughts on the game before we transition to WWE TV?
No, other than I'm excited for the faction boss this weekend, and just I'm really looking forward to seeing what the next MLC is going to bring us.
Yeah, me too. I think that it would be the third one in the format, and it's time to go. Okay, all right. Are these really like last month's? Charlotte
Mhm.
was clearly the, oh man, if you got her this month, Miz, like, but it feels to me the one thing since they've switched formats, the free character both months has not been like the free characters that we had 6 months ago or 4 months ago. So I hope that without taking the specialness of either the A tier or the S tier, I don't care if one's good and one's bad, but at least one of them needs to be good. I just hope the free character is really good next month.
Oh yeah, I mean definitely. And also, for the love of God, please no more trickster females. Please, 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 no more trickster females.
Right. Right. And please, if there is Powerhouse AJ coming, I've been trying to say give us a Powerhouse AJ for a while. Don't make him aggressive. Just don't make him aggressive. Oh goodness. Well, let's transition over to the world of real life WWE, and talking of things that feel like it blurs the lines between like, oh, this is definitely theatrical and a story, but also kind of hit real. Did you see the promo interview between Bo Dallas and Uncle Howdy?
Yes, I did actually. So a little bit of a little peek behind the curtain. When I messaged Lee, I was like, "Oh, I didn't watch Raw this week," and he's like, "Ah, it's okay." So I actually sat down and watched Raw just so I would have the ability to be able to speak on that.
Nice.
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
And I know, I know that the Wyatt Six came out last week, but one of the
Right.
things I can tell you is, I'm glad it finally happened.
Yeah.
So, okay, here's the thing. I know we've talked a lot about Triple H's long-term booking,
Right.
but I know some people out there are probably going to hate me for this. I got sick of the Wyatt Six promos and things.
Yeah.
Only because I was just like, for the love of God, just debut already,
Right.
because like it went on and on and on, and I just was like, at a certain point, I'm like, are they ever gonna like debut or
Right.
like it's like And I was and just like, and I'm talking about me here. Pardon me.
You're right.
If they had gone on for another like 2 months or 3 months with the promos, I would have
Yeah.
instantly been like, yep, yeah, I'm not going to support or be happy with anything that they do.
Right. Right. I agree. My grandmother would have a phrase for that show, as used to say, which was pee or get off the pot. Like,
Yeah.
it's time. And, if you remember, think back to the previous regime. And do you remember when Veer had a segment every week on Raw? And it was Veer is coming. Veer is. And then, like, 6-7 months later, it was still like, he's still on his way. It's like, is he walking backwards in snow to get there? I don't understand what's going on. And then when he got there, it was like, well, we kind of already were past him. And not just us, like the audience, but the leadership there. So yeah, I agree. But the Wyatt Six, now that they are here, it definitely feels like a Bray Wyatt idea. I mean, it feels like they're really doing what they can to honor that legacy. I'm interested to see the individual characters start to get highlighted. Like, obviously, this week was Abby the Witch, which is Nikki Cross. They just kind of really focused on her and then let her, and then hopefully they'll focus on the Buzzard or the Huskus or but let them kind of creep you out for a couple weeks. But then, like you said, they've got to do something big. Like, they've got to do something, I don't know, I'm thinking not Retribution, because that was horrible, but I'm thinking back to like when the Nexus got there and they just wrecked everyone. Like, if we're going to take them seriously, there needs to be something where it's not just like, oh, this is Undertaker spooky, but like they actually just laid to waste the main event scene somehow.
Yeah. But on the same token, I do hope that they're careful with what they do with them, in the sense that, remember when The Fiend came out And
Yeah.
that wonderful, great Hell in a Cell match that he had with Seth. you
Right.
know, and then and then he won the title, and then jobbed out to Goldberg, and
Goldberg, yeah.
yeah,
Because
in four
Goldberg said it was
seconds.
unrealistic that he would lose.
Yeah, so it just I hope they don't book themselves into a corner, which I don't
Agreed.
think that they're going to, but you do kind of get where I'm going with it. Like,
Right.
I don't want it in a situation where, oh, this person's unbeatable and you can't do anything to them, and then it's going
Right.
to turn into a situation of like, okay, like, if somebody like Goldberg beats him in 2 seconds, then like, okay, I'm not going to believe that they're, this other super powerful thing. But
Right.
then if they just set it to where like they just beat, it just beats everybody,
Right.
then at one point they're going to run out of people to face,
Right.
like.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm trying to think of what character in pop culture this is. It's not Siler from Heroes, but there was a character, maybe it was in a video game, but if you found a way to beat them, like you destroyed them, but then they came back like kind of like a phoenix force or whatever, and then they were impervious from that point forward to that specific way of being beaten. I think something
Mhm.
like that would be really cool, where they'll build it up and Uncle Howdy is, very beatable at first, but then all of a sudden, like, now he's impervious to this, and never take it to the degree where he can't be beaten at all, but to where the opponents have to find new ways to beat him. Like, for whatever reason, he's impervious to finishers now, but then they get him to
Mhm.
submit, and then, I don't know. Like, you got to be
Yeah.
careful with that path too. But was that oh, you're right, Zandel. It's the Ivo robot from DC, from
Yeah.
Super Friend, not Super Friends, but Justice League.
Mhm.
Yeah, the Ivo robot. Like, yeah, that's right, exactly. Like, if you set him on fire to destroy him, well, then he comes back and he's impervious to fire. That would be. I think they could take that to some interesting places, because I don't know. Level with me here. I know he had some good runs in NXT. Is Bo Dallas capable of carrying the main event?
You see, that's also what I was going to go with, is like, I get that they're honoring Bray, but on the same token, like, remember when they had Bo Dallas come out with his cowboy gimmick?
Was that the Bo leave, or was this before that?
Okay, no, no, okay. So I'll look it up on the Royal Rumble and the Royal Rumble and send it to you.
Okay.
So Wade Barrett was Intercontinental Champion at the time,
Okay.
and Bo Dallas had like this cowboy theme, and he had like long like dreads with the beads in it, which I've never been a
Nice.
big fan of. Period. But
Reggae
like,
cowboy.
yeah, he beat Wade for the Intercontinental Championship while he was still in NXT. Wade beat him the next day, and then he left,
Oh.
and he went back to NXT, and then that's when the Bo Leaf stuff came out.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't watching around that time frame apparently, because I've actually not really seen when I saw Bo Dallas, he was in the B team, and
Yeah.
that was again. So my view of him is tainted because I haven't
Mhm.
seen NXT champion Bo Dallas,
Mhm.
and Uncle Howdy. I mostly saw him jump off of a Mountain Dew electric thing,
Yeah.
in the match against LA Knight. But these promos and even the way they set it up, like it's a VHS tape. And kids,
Mhm.
I love the fact that Michael Cole looked at the camera and said, "Kids, you won't know what this is," but. And it was like, and then they played it, and it very much looked like the VHS. I mean, I thought
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. Yeah. And what do you think of? And I know they haven't really featured him much yet, but the
Mhm.
wrestlers who play the rest of the Wyatt Six, minus, of course, we're missing one, which is supposedly Alexa Bliss, but
Yeah.
minus the missing member, the other four that aren't Bo Dallas. What do you think of the choices for those?
I think it's great choices because like people like Dexter Loomis, for example, he's always had like that creepy, kind of, edge to him. And
Right.
honestly, like, what was he doing? You
Stalking
know,
the
like,
Miz. That was it.
yeah, exactly. So this puts him in a prominent spot. It gives him something to do. And yeah, like I think although I will say this, okay, I don't like the beard that he grew.
It is interesting. Yes, I
Yeah,
agree.
not a fan of his beard. Okay, maybe he needs a little more time to grow it out, and it'll look nice.
Right.
But yeah, it just because did you see that picture of them at the Whataburger afterwards?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, yeah. When I saw that photo, I was just like, I was like, yeah, that's not good. That doesn't look good.
Right, right. Luckily, he's under a mask so far,
Yeah.
but yeah. Similarly? Did you see Indy Hartwell's response to that?
No, I didn't. I actually missed that.
Oh yeah, I mean, it. Yeah, it was what it was. I think what culture called it out, or somebody did, but it was something along the lines of, "What has happened to my husband since I saw him last?" Because that they were married in the storyline and stuff. She's like, "What is
Yeah.
my husband doing?" It was like, oh, so yeah, I agree, and I don't know. What's the other one? Gacy. I've
Joe
never watched
Gacy.
Joe Gacy. I've never seen him, so
Mhm.
I don't know if he's a good pick or not.
So I wanted to look up the list just so that I didn't like miss anybody.
It's
I've
Rowan, Gacy, and Nikki Cross are the last three
Yeah.
we're talking about. Yeah.
So here's the thing. I'm not a big fan of like the ultra violent wrestling personally.
Okay, that's what
So
he is.
yeah, that's part of the reason why I don't really know Joe Gacy as well. Um, I just look, CZW has had some fantastic matches that
Yeah.
aren't blood and guts and things like that. And it's not that I'm squeamish.
Right.
So it's just I always feel like in wrestling, like you give your body to somebody, and I mean, I know you were the one that trained, but unlike me, but like when you're in wrestling, you give your body to somebody,
Right.
and the thing is, when it comes to like hardcore wrestling, I see people taking unnecessary risks,
Yeah.
and I also see a bunch of people who are, I don't know how else to put it, like what they lack in ability, they just make up for in, you know, oh,
Right.
it's like, like I can't do a headlock, I can't do an arm drag, but going through four panes of glass, yeah, I can do that no problem.
Right.
Uh,
We call that the Shane McMahon approach around here,
yeah,
but
yeah, but
yeah.
so yeah, that's just making my small note on that.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And I agree. I mean, it's like if you ever watched like high school fights, the guy that you're like, okay, he is not the one that's going to win this, but
Mhm.
they're the loudest, like most obnoxious. What? You want a piece of it? Like
Yeah,
you just get, instead of being actually good, you just get loud.
yeah,
Yeah. So, and I think that from Joe, 'cause I don't know him too much, but I mean there is a fan base for that style, and
yeah,
certainly I'm the same. It's not that I'm like, oh, I can't take blood and guts or horror, but at the same time, I don't know. Like if you ever even saw, speaking of who killed WCW, former WCW World Heavyweight Champion David Arquette, when he did
yeah.
his "You Can't Kill David Arquette"
Mhm.
documentary, and he did a death match where they did light tubes. And
Yeah,
legitimately, he was like, "That is the most horrifying thing I've ever done. I will never do this again in my life."
yeah.
And I see why. It's I hate to say it, but it's foolish, you know?
Yeah. Like I said again, it's not my cup of tea. I wouldn't do it.
Right.
But then again, like there are legitimately good wrestlers that have come from that world. So speaking of
Yeah.
CZW, do you know who is a CZW alumnus?
No.
One Mr. Dean Ambrose.
Oh, yes. Okay, that I did know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I'm just saying there are people who know what they're doing outside of that. But
Right.
yeah, what I mean. I like Sammy Callahan as well. What is it, Solomon Crow? If you remember him from NXT.
No, I
Yeah,
know of Sammy Callahan. I didn't know. Again, I've actually not really ever watched NXT. I watched the one match where Keith Lee won all the titles, but other than that,
yeah.
I miss it for the most part.
Okay, I don't ever like when it comes to NXT. I kind of like I watch the big matches and the takeovers, but I don't watch
Sure.
me. The older you get, you only have so much time to watch wrestling. When you have
Right.
more and more responsibilities added to your plate.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it. Trust me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what about Rowan
Mhm.
returns to the company carrying the hammer to kind of honor his bludgeon brother's
Mhm.
past and his lost bludgeon brother, but yet Braun Strowman is not.
Actually, I was gonna bring that up for our talk. Yeah, I'm kind of shocked that they didn't do that. But I mean, I know that they are still doing storylines with Strowman, um, and even if he's not going after the world title right now,
Yeah.
which they're still using him prominently, and then to not have him come back in the group, I was kind of like, are they gonna, are if Alexa Bliss doesn't come back, maybe it might be Strowman.
Huh. Maybe. What's the missing character though? Cuz it's not Abby the Witch, it's who are we missing? Cuz
Um,
of the Firefly Funhouse characters, because it seems like Nikki is Abby the Witch when we would have thought Alexa is. So, is there another female character that we're missing? I don't
uh,
know, but it's possible. Or maybe they should have done Braun Strowman instead of Joe Gacy. I don't know. I don't know. Be
yeah. Well, I
Oh,
mean,
oh, of
but
course, Sister Abigail. Yeah, Zandel
yeah,
called it out. Yeah, of
yeah,
course, Sister Abigail. Yeah, so it needs to be, unless they do the Bray Wyatt and the rocking chair kind of
mhm,
thing again, it probably needs to be a female as the last one. But
yeah.
yeah, who knows? Who
But here's the
knows?
great thing about wrestling: it's subject to change.
There you go. Yeah, brother Abigail, or
Yeah.
non-coded Abigail. Yeah, I mean, I could see that. Yeah, yeah, interesting. And then Nikki Cross,
Mhm.
she, I thought, was going back towards a sanity reunion
Mhm.
type thing and was walking around crazy. But when you talk about like Triple H's long-term booking and then it kind of being a detriment at times. How long ago was it that they were doing like a women's battle royale and she was just standing there staring off into space during that was like months and months ago.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no, I remember exactly what you're referring to.
Yeah. So, interesting. Interesting. And if Alexa does come back as Sister Abigail, does that make her the leader of the group, or is there like I don't know, is what's the dynamic that way? Do they all bow to Uncle Howdy, or because Sister Abigail was like the force that controlled the Fiend or controlled Bray
Mhm.
Wyatt, so how do they play that off, I wonder?
And that's one of those things that I love. Like when wrestling is good, it is so good.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see what's going to come out. I mean, because, we can, like Alexa may choose to just never come back.
Right.
And, or, she could come back as Sister Abigail and, they might do, like you said, they might have it to where they're the ones kowtowing to her, or they'll
Mm.
kowtow to Uncle Howdy. It might be one of those things like the Judgment Day, where hey, we're all the leaders and we're all the followers at the same time. So who
Right.
knows?
Yeah. Who knows? I agree. What you mentioned the Judgment Day. What if it was Rhea that came back as Sister Abigail? That would just, I mean, that would conflate too many stories into one.
Yeah.
But
Well,
interesting.
Damien. Oh, sorry, I
No, you're
apologize.
fine.
Yeah.
I was
Well,
fishing.
did you get a chance to watch Raw yet this week?
I've watched most of it. Yeah, I
Okay.
did.
Well, you do remember Damian Priest did say when Seth challenged him that I'm the world champion. The judgment, like they need me more than I need them. So
Right.
That can leave, again, long-term booking,
Right. It could
that can leave the
be.
door open for that to happen.
Right. Well, and you hit on something too that I want to, we've got a little bit of time, but probably need to wrap it up here in a moment. But
Oh, yeah, sure.
when wrestling is really good, so we've got a guy, a family that's a part of what I do in my day to day stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and this 7-year-old boy that's there all the time finds out that I like wrestling, and he just got introduced to it like a couple months ago, and it is so cool to see like what I was like when I was little. Like he's sitting in our lobby watching wrestling videos, and then he'll just like come over to me in the coffee shop part of our building and like, hey, I have something for you. So notice that Liv's impact, like he's not Dirty Dom anymore. Now he's Daddy Dom. Like she's changing his identity. He's being taken over by like, and just, I mean, he just sits there and just is soaking in these storylines. And he came over to me today and he goes, "Okay, all right, I got one for you. Braun Breaker versus Braun Strowman. Who do you think's gonna win?" And I'm like, well, I mean, the way they're building them, and I'm getting all like adult logical on
Yeah.
him. I'm like, the way they're building them up, Braun Breaker would probably win, blah, blah, blah. And he just frowns at me. He goes, "No, man, Braun Strowman's the best. Stop it." I was like, okay, that's great. Like, this is a little kid showing me the way again to just
Yeah.
enjoy it, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things about wrestling. And by the way, no worries about it. I'll try to keep. I'll try to stop from being so long-winded.
Oh no
But
no
yeah,
you're good. I just
yeah.
I don't know. I'm assuming it's like 1 a.m. where you're at, which
Oh,
I
it's
very much.
almost midnight. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I
Yeah.
very
But
much appreciate you being on late
yeah.
hours to do this. So
Oh no, it's all good. But yeah, I think that sometimes, like, especially when you really get into wrestling, you sometimes get into like a situation of like, oh, you know what, the work rate of this match was blah blah blah, and this person botched this, and like you don't watch it with like the wonderment of like, oh man, this is a great match, like,
yeah,
because there are going to be people out there who like, they're like, oh, this was like a 1-star match or whatever, but for a little kid out there whose favorite wrestler is Braun Strowman, they're like,
right,
"Oh my god, this is the greatest match that I ever saw."
right. Yeah, Choo Choo Braun of all things. But yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. Just the wonder of it all, and just that's the way I was when I was a kid too. It was like, oh my gosh, for me, the first WrestleMania that I watched and my mom's boyfriend bought it for me on pay-per-view was WrestleMania 6, and as a kid, it legit, like the way they built it up is like, this is the battle of the Titans and who's gonna win, Hogan or Warrior. Like that was what I thought about all day. Some days it was like, well, Hogan is unbeatable, but the Warrior is, and now. You mentioned about my past being in very short amount of time,
Yeah.
but I trained. I did train as a professional wrestler at one point, and I was with the guys. We were in Dallas at the where it was based out of, and we would watch wrestling together. And instead of us sitting around and being like, "Oh my gosh, that story! Oh, it's so incredible!" Like they would literally go, "Oh, he turned the wrong way. Oh, he." And I learned a lot from this, though. I learned a lot watching him. At one point, one of the guys dropped the mic, and one of the guys goes, "Well, he's not getting paid tonight." I was like, "What?" He goes, "Yep, indie wrestling. If you drop the mic, you don't get paid because you damage the equipment and stuff." And I was like, "Oh." And so,
Yeah.
but just the difference of watching it and going, "Oh, he turned the wrong way because he has a lucha background instead of an American background," is so different than just like, "Oh, Braun's gonna do it because he's the unstoppable monster. Oh, I
Yeah.
can't wait." Like
Yeah.
it's interesting. It's
Oh,
interesting.
I do have a quick question for you, and
Yeah,
it's not necessarily related to WWE television.
that's fine.
When did you figure out that kayfabe was a thing? Because I have an answer for you on that one.
Okay. Well, you want to share yours? Because I don't know if I remember. Like, I mean, definitely it's still real to me, darn it,
Yeah.
guy. Like, I was way past that, but it's almost like well, I don't know, my kids are, like other mythical beings that you say like,
Yeah.
hey, that person's coming down the chimney, etc.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know, but I know at least like I wasn't watching as much when the Hogan steroid trial and stuff, like where they
Mhm.
just bombed it.
Mhm.
I don't know. You tell me yours because
Yeah.
I'll have to think.
Okay, so I don't so here's the thing. I can give you specific examples of
Okay.
how I figured it out. Um, but when I was a kid and I watched wrestling, look, I love my dad very much so. But my dad was like, my dad was always like, it's fake, like he thought that they used a pill instead of like, like the razor to get
Right.
blood and things like that. And and I was just like, and with me being me, I'm like, no way, Dad, that's real. Like, it's like, you don't know. And then I always remember like my mom kind of nudging him, being like, like, yeah, let him enjoy it. Like, don't ruin it
Right.
for him. And so I don't remember when it happened first, but like in Texas, we got both WCW and WWF, at the time. I know not all markets had that in the old days of cable, which
Yeah.
I know, I know you want to talk about a VHS, 25 years ago, blah, blah, blah,
Right.
yeah. But I, it was either when Yokozuna, so I was born in 84. So I forget if it was when Yokozuna squashed Duggan. And you remember, and I know you said you may not have been watching at the time, but what happened is Yokozuna did the bonsai drop on Jim Duggan multiple times, and
Oh.
then and even like put the American flag over him and did a bonsai drop, I believe.
Okay.
Um, but then what happened was, like a month or two later, I saw him on WCW television, and I was like, wait a minute, like Duggan was really hurt. What is he doing here? And then in the same token, like the Big Boss Man
Yep.
was in WCW. He was in WCW originally, came over to WWF, and then went back to
Right.
WCW, and he was like the Guardian Angel. And
Right.
then, like, me being like the little kid, I was like, hold on a minute, that's the Big Boss Man. His name's not the Guardian Angel. And then, like, what happened? And then what happened with other people is I was like, wait a minute. I was like, that guy got injured. Why is he here? Or
Right.
like that guy is not name isn't Jim, it's Steve. Like, and then like little by little, I was like, hold on a minute. I was like, there's something here is, and
Right.
then kind of like at the advent of wrestling, like I Googled some of that stuff and I was just like, oh, so it is work.
Oh, that's all. I honestly I can't think back. I mean, Rusty and I've told this story on the podcast before for both of us, but one of my earlier memories where like it was very real to me was similar to the Bonsai drop. It was Earthquake on Hulk Hogan. And I
Mhm,
remember literally writing letters in from the magazine and
mhm,
all that kind of stuff. I think I figured it out when I wasn't a fan, like in the
yeah,
in between times. So, because I watched WWE or at the time WWF
mhm,
until right before like the time frame where Hogan went, like before, like I didn't watch Raw when it first came
mhm,
out. Savage was still prominent there when I watched it. And then when I came back, it was Goldberg and the Wolfpack and the NWO already. So I missed everything between those two things. And at that point, my friends and everybody were already like, wrestling's fake, and it was like, well, but that's not the point. Like we had
yeah,
we had already gone through that wrestling in a different sense with the existential crisis of, yeah, of course it's fake. Like
yeah,
we're okay with that.
yeah.
So I just
Well,
missed it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the one thing is, even when I found out that it was, that things were work and kayfabe was a thing,
Right.
didn't change my love of wrestling one bit.
Right.
I just like I was like, oh, so that's what it is. But yeah, then of course you get older, and especially now in the days of social media and everything,
Right.
and also wrestling secrets exposed with the stunt granny, you figure out
Right.
like, oh, so this is how they do.
Yeah. Well, or when you have one of those where like they go to kick and they miss like visibly
Mhm.
on camera by like 3 or 4 inches, and you're like, wait,
Yeah.
and then they still fall over, or that infamous botch with Batista where they hit
Yes.
him and he like stumbles backwards and then's like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to fall over and like
Yeah.
falls. But I mean, you love it for different reasons. It's like,
Yeah.
tell people like, well, do you watch whatever popular TV show at the time,
Mhm.
Well, yeah. Well, you understand that's fake too. Well, yeah, but okay, like, but the other. So here's my one of my favorite moments, and legitimately, I actually watched it a couple months ago. The movie Ready to Rumble that
Yeah.
WCW put out, unironically one of my favorite movies of all time. Like it's so bad, but it's so
Mhm.
good. And they have the part where Jimmy King and the guy goes, "Wrestling's fake," and he goes, "Wham!" and clocks in the face. And goes, "That feel fake to you?" Like, I mean, when I did my wrestling training, I had a chiropractor on notice all the time, and now ours was a boxing ring, not a wrestling ring, so it was
Yeah.
steel reinforced. And then, but there was even a picture that kind of went a little bit viral on social media even this week that was like, "Look, this is a wrestling ring," and it just showed the wood planks. It's like there's a little bit of foam and there's a pad on top of that. Like it is rough. And what I learned personally, I'm not exposing secrets or whatever, but in my training, whenever they were calling spots and stuff, I was like, can you do like bigger spot? Because he'd be like, hip toss. Oh gosh, hip tosses hurt so bad. But they'd be like, top rope power bomb. I'm like, fine, okay, yeah, we can do that because it breaks, it breaks the mat and it
Yeah.
absorbs your energy differently. But when you just fall over, you're like, oh, it's like falling on the floor.
Mhm.
Oof, it hurts. Zandel's in the chat. There, Zandel's, yeah, bump and run is a
Yeah.
professional. Did you know Zandel's a professional wrestler?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was aware of
Okay,
that.
all right, just making sure, making
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I
Yeah.
couldn't remember
And
if it
he's
was you or Merrick's or both who had told me that, but
well, I found out from Merrick's that he was, and my life's goal is that if I ever do run into Zandal, I want to ride around on his shoulders.
right. Wow. Well, any other thoughts on WWE TV? Rusty and I are going to do some predictions for Money in the Bank
Mhm.
next week, right? Because we still have one more week, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
I
There's
think.
so I think I forget what the number is. I think there's three more women's and then two more men's, I believe, or something. It's something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm I I'm excited for Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank is actually, for those that don't know, the year that Nikki Ash and Big E won. I actually got to sit front row in Dallas or Fort Worth to be, more exact. But
Precise. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I sat front row and it was amazing. You know, uh,
Nice.
I love Money in the Bank. That is so outside of WrestleMania and SummerSlam. That is, oh, and the Royal Rumble. Sorry,
Yeah.
yeah, that is my favorite pay per view of the year. So
Nice.
I'm really looking forward to seeing what like what's in store and who's gonna win it. And yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch it with a bunch of friends, eat some pizza,
Nice.
and enjoy every minute of it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to it too. I got to get caught back up. I did watch and I always catch Wrestle Talks updates, but
Mhm.
I haven't been as diligent watching the last couple with everything going on in life,
Mhm.
but I'm intrigued by who's in the mix. So, quick shout version before we end it. Who
Mhm.
is your pick to win men's and women's Money in the Bank?
So with who? So in the women's, it's Io, it's
Okay.
Chelsea Green.
Yeah.
Um, I can't believe I'm blanking on her name right now. Um,
Wasn't it not Alba Fire, but she was an NXT call up.
yeah, I was gonna say I can remember Alba
Lyra
Lyra. Yeah, I was
Valkyria.
gonna say I
Yeah,
can
that's
remember
what it was.
Alba. I couldn't.
Thank you, Zando.
I would like to give it to Lyra because I don't think Io's gonna repeat. And honestly,
Okay.
this is just a personal thing. Once a person wins, I think that they shouldn't have back-to-back wins if they do, if they do get it at some point in the future.
Right.
So Lyra is definitely who I would, vote for on that one.
Okay. Okay. And we know more of the men's field.
Mhm.
So picks so far, it's interesting the choices in there, I think.
Yeah. So for the men's, it's Jay Uso. It's
Chad Gable.
Chad Gable. There's
Uh, him, Carmelo Hayes,
yeah.
and who else?
I'm getting
You
it
pull,
right. I'm getting it.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're pulling it up.
Yeah. Jay Uso versus Carmelo Hayes versus Andrade versus Chad
Andrade.
Gable. Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's two more left. There's two more left. Um,
So it can be one of those, but it can also be a random like we know Drew McIntyre is going to be in the mix. We know etc. So
yeah. So looking at it right now of the people that have been officially announced, because they're saying the two are still TBD.
yeah,
I would love for Carmelo to win.
yeah,
I love Carmelo Hayes. Um, I I mean, I really don't want Andrade to win personally.
okay,
Um, and then like I'd be fine with Chad. I'd be fine with Jay Uso winning it. The only thing is that like with Jay Uso, I love Jay Uso. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking him. But the thing is that I felt like if they were going to pull the trigger on main event, they would have done it already.
mm,
Um, so that's the reason why I don't think he's going to win.
right,
Um, but yeah, so yeah, if I had to pick one just on the list that's out right now, um, yeah, I'd pick Carmelo. At least that's who I would want to win.
right. Well, I'm well, I like to say, Rusty and I are going to talk next week, so I won't tip my hat too early. But my favorite storyline going on in wrestling right now, period, is Drew McIntyre and CM Punk. So
Yeah.
if McIntyre doesn't win it, then that means CM Punk has to cost him again, and I think
Mhm.
that's probably the way they'll do that to get. But so your qualifier for Monday, I think, is Sheamus, McIntyre, and Ilya Dragunov.
Mhm.
So either CM Punk's gonna mess him up there, and Ilya Dragunov's gonna make it into the mix, which I think would be interesting. I mean, I think out of all of these, how to put it delicately, are any of the people who are in that mix the ones that the previous regime would have put in that mix? Does that make sense, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it would have been your, well, actually, Bronson Reed got released in the previous regime, but it would have been your Bronson Reed type. It would have been your Braun Strowman type. It would be Kane coming back and being in
Yeah.
the Money in the Bank again. So I'm wondering. That's my toss up. Is
Mhm.
does Drew McIntyre go there? And then the question is, of course, does he win, or does CM Punk mess him up there, or does CM Punk mess him up again in the qualifier? And then
Mhm.
I don't know. That's going to be my interesting thought. But if
Uh,
Drew McIntyre doesn't go in, I would like to see what they do with Chad Gable.
mhm.
But I don't want him winning a world title.
Yeah,
I want him getting the Intercontinental title. That'd be fine. But I don't want him
yeah.
going after the world title.
Oh yeah, and hopefully the one thing I will say too is I really hope they don't do something like what they did when Brock won Money in the Bank, where
Yeah.
just like like here's the six competitors, and then the last 30 seconds, oh hey, by the way, we're gonna have it's like oh yeah,
Right.
CM Punk was in this the whole time, and then push Drew over, climb the ladder, boom, done.
And win. Yeah. If I had my dream booking on it, because I agree, I wouldn't want that. Who I would love to do a surprise qualifier, but not show up in the Brock spot, would be Otis.
Yeah,
And Otis destroys Chad Gable and then gets redemption for the briefcase that he lost in the
yeah.
pandemic era. But again, I don't see Otis being world champion match contender. So Who knows? But maybe it seems like it's going to be a lot of interference. It's going to be CM Punk interfering on McIntyre, and hopefully Otis interferes on Gable, and then it's going to be Mello or Dragunov probably winning. Who knows? Well, before we go, Sheik, we haven't had a chance, or we haven't taken the opportunity yet for you to encourage people to check out your content. So why don't you do that, and I'll take us out.
All right. So on YouTube, on Twitch, pretty much anywhere that you can find me on any sort of platform or social media, it'll be at IronSheik84. And eventually one of these days I'll get around to streaming more regularly. So, you can catch me on Twitch at IronSheik84 for more WWE Champions action.
Well, and thank you guys for being on this late night podcast recording. We appreciate Iron Sheik for hopping in. Please do follow him. And by the way, we're going to be doing the podcast on the Twitch version here from now on. So follow the podcast on Twitch to make sure you know when we're going to be there. And tomorrow night, or depending on what time zone you're in later today, we will be on the official channel. We'll be power rating Trish and doing some polls and having some fun with the Imperium moment. So that's all we got for this episode. We will see you on the next one. Bye.